All right, awesome. Yeah, so it seems like pathway number one is the Compose Essential. So let's take a look at that real quick. I'm not going to do the videos because I feel like us watching a video together is kind of weird. So I'll just kind of scroll through this and for the most part focus on like the code lab, I think. I know that there's a lot that goes into this, and a lot of these videos I have sort of seen before in the past, like in snippets. So I have a general understanding, but I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this real quick to make sure that there's nothing that I might be missing. So here it seems like they're talking about the annotation, the composable annotation for the function names, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that basically every composable would be like a composable function with that annotation on, and the preview annotation is what we use to be able to see like the screen itself and the changes. Is that correct? Or am I off the ballpark? All right, cool. All right, sounds good. So for the most part, yeah, that's what it seems like it's going through here. Preview and composable, those two. UI elements are a hierarchy. So this is mainly like in terms of the order of the UI elements, I'm assuming. So as we write it, right, the way that we write, the way that they're nested, the elements, that's the order that we're going to be seeing them. Is that also a correct assumption? All right, cool. Yeah, and go ahead. Right. Gotcha. And that reminds me a lot of like, I don't know if you've done any web development, but that reminds me of like a div, you know, like how you would sort of have that empty box, right? And you would stack stuff inside or nest more divs inside of it. Um, that's how I relate it in my mind, but also like Swift UI, it's very similar to this as well if you've done any of that. But for the most part, that makes sense to me. So that's good. I'm not lost yet. All right. Now, they do mention column, which is, I guess, just a vertical list, or I guess. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And then they do mention you can use row, obviously, for the horizontal stuff. Um, right. Let me see here if there's anybody that have to admit to the call. Yeah, we have a couple more people joining us. Welcome, welcome. We haven't gotten started into anything deep yet. We're just going over making sure that I don't disregard any important information from here. But yeah, feel free to chime in if you have any questions or any input. All right, so for the most part, they covered composable annotation, preview annotation, column, row, and box, I guess. The box one, it's kind of interesting. I don't think I've used or heard of that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. Right. So a column would be vertical, row would be horizontal, and then a box sort of has depth to it, essentially, like a stack. All right, cool. Okay, that makes sense to me. I kind of want to see it in action. I hope they show it, but uh, it looks like with an image element, you just sort of use that image composable, and I mean, this is pretty straightforward so far. So I'm trying to see if there's anything that I may be missing, but for the most part, I think once we dive into the code lab, it'll make more sense. And then I guess they mentioned some material design stuff. And here I have seen some of these modifiers, but for the most part, I think this. I mean, okay. In general, like when you see a section like this, material design, is there anything that you would say like, oh, this is probably a good thing to note for this section, or is this, yeah? Right. Right. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more, obviously more advanced stuff that we could do with it. But for the most part, I see that they're mainly just talking about like the color, typography, and shape aspect of it. So like these different modifiers. And yeah, for the most part, I think I understand most of this. Like I don't have any outstanding question at the moment for this, but um, if there's anything that you feel like should be called out, feel free to chime in. Let me make sure that I have the chat open as well, just in case somebody sent a message. Let me see here. Okay, I have it open. So yeah, feel free to chime in if there's anything that you want to call out. For the most part, this is just I guess the introductory article to Compose for those who just joined in. And yeah, we're just going over like the different elements and annotations and stuff like that. So nothing major. And I think this is probably like the biggest thing so far with the material design, which is like enabling dark mode, which is I guess a lot easier than a lot of other areas. Yep. Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. That makes a little bit more sense. And yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of like uh, for me, it seems like this is pretty huge because for the most part, at least in views when you're developing like for different themes, you're kind of going back and forth a lot, and it's a lot harder to test directly. So the fact that you can do this even in the preview mode, just automatically see this and the differences between the contrast, for the text or whatever it is versus the background, like this is pretty useful, I would say. And I'm sure you can attest to that. But yeah, it's great to see, that's for sure. All right. Okay, so and yeah, it seems like everything's predefined in this theme file. Is that what I'm reading? I think. So we can kind of like see these different previews, modify accordingly, and see whether we're in light or dark mode, what it would look like. Essentially, that's what we talked about. Perfect. Yep. Right. Okay. Yeah, and it seems like that has an or creates a nice blend or transition from like a design file from Figma or whatever it is to something that developers can use for reusability, branding, whatever it is that we do. Like, even if we're creating different, I guess, buttons, for example, like something that we reuse all over, it sounds like we can definitely use a lot of these different built-in tools, theme, whatever it is, to create these, I guess, more reusable components. Is that correct? Or Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. I guess we can go ahead and close this out. So this is the introductory article. So, and like I mentioned, I'm not gonna do the videos because I feel like, I mean, that's just a watch party, just us sitting here watching videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and just dive right in. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the first Compose Code Lab, take a look at that, and we'll build together, I guess, from there. So let's go ahead and get that started. Now I already created whatchamacallit, a new project in Android Studio. It's an empty compose project, so it should be good enough unless they have something here for me to to clone or something like that. But we'll take a look. Any questions so far? Anything like that? Anything that you want to call out before we get started? All right, sounds good. So let's go ahead and code along. All right, so I guess this is what we'll learn, more or less. What Compose is, obviously, how to build UIs, how to manage state and composable functions. That one to me is still cloudy. So as far as what I've dabbled with, I'm not sure too much about this. How to create a performant list, how to add animations, and then how to style the app. So let's take a look. This is what we're going to be building essentially. I already created a new project, so this is basically going to go through that, but I'm assuming maybe I'm not sure if I need the Material 3 stuff or if I didn't include it, but let me take a look real quick. I'm Android Studio just to make sure. Gotcha. Well, I mean, I just checked right now, like the new projects, and I don't see this option, so I'm assuming maybe empty compose activity already includes like the Material 3 stuff. Right. Awesome. Okay. So we'll get started with that. And I guess what I'll do is I will. I'm not sure if I'll keep like half a screen, or I'm not sure how we'll follow this along, but we'll go back and forth if anything between my code and this. So if you don't have the link, this is the link at the code lab I'm looking at right now, and I'll put it in the chat real quick. And you can follow through there if you'd like. We're on step number 2, and so everything's configured. It should be configured anyway. And let's take a look at what they want us to do. Just run it, I guess, because there's nothing else here. Solution. Okay, that's the solution for the end. So let's go ahead and get started. They talk about a composable function, how it's just a regular function annotated with composable. And we can see that here, how it's marked. It seems like it's just a text composable saying hello, whatever the name is that we passed. Cool. And let me switch screens real quick to the Android view so that you can take a look at what the code looks like at the moment. Here it is. I'm going to go ahead and share this entire screen. You should be able to see it. It might be a little small for you. Let me know if you can kind of tell, but I'll increase the font size in a second. Size. Is this big enough? Is this readable? Awesome. Okay, cool. So this is what it comes with. There's nothing else to it. I'm going to go ahead and split the view so that we can take a look at what the design is. I guess we have to build and refresh on this, but in the meantime, we can go ahead and go back and forth and navigate between this and the guide. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it seemed to be there. I just hadn't run it before. Oh, I guess. So, quick question. I know that this might be a new question, but I'm used to seeing like a whole screen, right? I know there's a modifier, I think, is there, for the preview to show like a phone? Gotcha. Oh, I see. Oh, very nice. That's pretty awesome. Show background true. Okay. That's pretty awesome. Okay, cool. And then system UI would be, I'm assuming like the, oh, that's, yeah. Cool. All right. So that seems a little bit more of what I'm used to. All right. And then let's go back to the guide real quick. Flashbang. Um, all right. So they're talking about the how an activity remains the entry point to an Android app. Cool. Android manifest. So I'm trying to see if there's any like actionable stuff here, but for the most part, it seems like this is going through what we've already talked about. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip to step number 4, tweaking the UI. So let's go ahead and start by setting a different background color for the greeting composable function. Okay. So they're saying that to set a different background color, we could define or use surface and just, I guess, call in this primary color. So let's go ahead and try that real quick. Surface is going to wrap around our text composable. So that's going to be in greeting over here. And I'll go ahead and say surface. And text is going to go inside of it. And then for the modifier, I think it's just a color. Yeah. Color. And it's material theme dot color scheme dot primary. And that should set, I guess, a background color. I think it's still running. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So it set this background color when we wrapped this text composable with surface. Let's see what else this, because I'm assuming there's more, obviously, to this surface composable. Maybe there's some modifiers that we could use, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. So for the most part, we did that part. Seems pretty straightforward. Is surface the only way to change the background? Is there something else that I may be missing, or is that like the? Okay. So basically, right. Okay, so it still acts like a view. Everything in here, like all these composables, still act like a view. So they have all their attributes, right, as they would in the view system. But for the most part, like surface is something that sits, I guess, behind any of these. It's kind of like a separate sort of not an attribute specifically for a view, but something that sits outside of the composables. Yeah, these over here. Oh, yeah. Oh, for surface itself, or like right, right. Okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. That's good to know. Honestly, this is why I like this sort of style of event, because just seeing that back and forth is stuff that I wouldn't see in this documentation. Stuff that to me I wouldn't be able to answer unless I go to Google, and then like that's some time spent. So it's nice to hear that back and forth. All right, so yeah, they talk about modifiers here, and then most compose UI elements such as surface text accept an additional modifier parameter, which is kind of like what we saw here, right? Like we use color, and I'm assuming that would be like a modifier for this surface function. Um, and then what else? So we can create a padding modifier by adding dot padding. Oh, this is what they're talking about here specifically. Like if you actually specify modifier equals. Okay. So they want us to add some padding to the text. 24 dp. Okay. So we're going to go to the text right now. We have this modifier. I guess we were passing it before to the greeting if we wanted to use it. And in this case, it seems like it's just defaulting, right? So for the most part, yeah. Right. Oh, I see it here. Oh, wow. That's pretty powerful. So you have some sort of like basic setup essentially, and then like using then you can add additional modifiers for specific use cases, right? Okay. 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 Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna dive more into that, but that's good to know. I didn't even know that then was a keyword, and I was still complaining about this like a couple years back. So this, then, that. All right, so let's try this. Yeah, let's try adding the padding real quick. So we're gonna do padding, and then it's just gonna be the number, whatever it is, dot dp. I think. Yeah. Right. All right. So you're saying that basically the child itself, this one right here, this will not or will override the modifier that we pass. Right. Mm. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, sure. Right. What is it? So this one right now is, I mean, we can remove it and see what it looks like. Maybe remove this pattern, but or maybe increase. I'm not even sure. Change this to like 100 and see what happens. The parent here, right? And that's what you were mentioning. You were mentioning like you have to watch out for it essentially, like because sometimes you can end up canceling out what you want out of your parent, right? Is that more or less what you're saying? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to know. Right, 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 right. Okay, that makes sense. So usually when you're going through the motions, you're essentially going from the deepest level, right? So child all the way up to the parent. That's how you would build the UI yourself. And you're saying like you have to watch out essentially with the modifiers because the child will override whatever the parent did if it's the same sort of I guess attribute that they're tapping into, right? Okay. Yeah, that's definitely good to know. So thanks for the heads up on that. Um, yeah, let's take a look at what we have here um, for whatever else. So far, yeah, it makes sense. Again, they don't. At least from what I see here, they haven't really mentioned what we've spoken about so far, like that order of things. But maybe I missed it. But it's definitely great to hear that feedback. So let's go to step number 5 and see. All right, so create a composable called my app that includes the following greeting. So they want us to create a new composable. Let's go ahead and do that here. So I'll go to the bottom here, and I'll just do the annotation, find my app. And what do they want us to have on it? Let's see. Modifier, same thing. So we're passing a modifier, but it's defaulting to this right here. We're gonna have a surface, and then we're gonna call that greeting composable. So we're gonna go ahead and first just do this. Oops, do this. And then modifier, type modifier. So go to modifier. We're gonna have the surface, and we're gonna have the greeting after that. Or is it after? Yeah, inside of it. Okay. Greeting. They want us to just pass the name Android into this one. And then they want us to add a modifier or pass the modifier to the surface itself and then background color essentially. So modifier, so go to modifier, and then the color will be the background from the material theme. Cool. Okay. Gotcha. You're talking about in here within the set content itself? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, and I think I might have missed this. Was this showing some sort of warning? I'm not sure if it was. I think it's just because I was highlighting it. I thought this was showing in yellow. I was like, oh, is Android Studio telling me that I should probably watch out? All right. So we created the My App composable. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next step. This lets you clean up the uncreated callback and preview. And so you can now use My App composable avoiding code duplication. Okay. So basically, they wanted us to extract that or make it more, I guess, decoupled in that sense. And that's what we're going to be doing here, which is we're going to have our basic theme, and then we're going to call my app instead with the film max size modifier. Okay. So in here, we're going to go ahead and say my app with the modifier being modifier that fill max size. Cool. Sounds good to me. Let's see what else. What's the next step? All right, so now we're diving into column rows and boxes. So we already talked about it. You know, column is going to be that vertical line, row is going to be that horizontal, and then the box, like you mentioned, it's going to be stacked in this sort of like depth way. We're going to try to change greeting, the composable, so that it shows a column with two text elements like this. So without looking at the code at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and just do this, but obviously we're going to say hello on the first text box and then Android on the second one. So this is what we're going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and forget about this modifier in the meantime, since they didn't really mention that. And we're just going to do this column. And I'm going to drop this in here. Instead of saying the hello or hello name, we're going to say hello, comma. Oops, comma. And then we're going to go ahead and have another text composable that says Android. Yep. Like to go into it, or? Oh, not that one. Okay. Huh. Well, maybe this context. Oh, wait, I did it, I think. I don't know what I did, but oh no, that wasn't it. Right. And then Alt you said, but yeah, it's not popping up any menu on mine, but maybe I'm doing something wrong. So, like in general, is that something that is usually done, or yeah? Okay. Oh, okay. That. Well, I wish I kind of knew what it was, but I'm sure we'll find out in a bit, if anything. Top of the column, anti-line. Okay. Option answer. Okay. Ah. Oh, okay. That's okay. I understand now. That's pretty cool. Okay, so if we were to start off from the beginning, right? If we were to start off from the beginning, we could probably like uh do something like that here, I guess, right? Or we could wrap that text or whatever. I'm sure we could highlight it too, but I didn't try it. All right, that's pretty good to know. That way I don't have to type all that nonsense every time. Gotcha. Well, that's good to know, yeah, for sure. All right, so the only thing I didn't do in this case is pass the name because I didn't think I need to, but I guess yeah, we could have, um, which is fine. I'm not really worried about that. So, um, but I guess we will have to because there's a list here. So let's go ahead and modify this real quick. The let me take a look at this. So, well, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to use that name. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and update this to just use the name string. And for greeting, I mean, down here in the preview, we have just Android set up, so it's just gonna say hello Android in the meantime, which is fine. Now my app is gonna get modified to have a list of names here. So we have a list of names with the words world and compose. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. All right. Names. It's a list of strings. World and compose. And then they want us to pass that, I guess, into a column within my app. Okay, so in here, we don't need the surface stuff. We're just gonna loop through the list of names and call greeting essentially. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So using my new handy widget. Oh wait, I can't. Now when it's empty. But maybe I'll just write the other stuff for now. All right. So name for names. We're gonna say greeting with whatever the name is. A name and names. I don't know why I said name for names. All right, let's wrap this around with this new. Oh wait, did I do it wrong? I did. Let's wrap this around. Nope. Wrap this around. Nope. Oh, wait, surround. Oh, there it is. Column. Oh no, this one. I'm trying to see which one it is. Maybe here. Yeah, I don't know where it is, but for now, I guess I'm just gonna do this. A coward's way out. All right. So we have a column. We loop through the names, and then we call this composable greeting. It's not being previewed because I haven't updated the preview, I'm assuming. So if anything, we can try that, but let me take a look at this. I think, yeah, they want us to call my app. And since everything's already defaulted to whatever my app has, we don't have to really pass anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say my app here. And there we go. So we do see hello world, hello compose. Cool. And I guess that's to show us also, like, that every time we call greeting, it will go through, obviously, the whole thing all over again. So it'll say hello, and it'll go through the name, whatever it is, and then it'll start again and do the same thing over and over. So there's no, I know that there are some nuances to, recomposing and all that stuff, but for the most part, this is what we're used to as Android developers, which is good. So this is great, awesome. And it says here we haven't set dimensions or added any constraints to the size of the composables yet. So each row takes the minimum space, obviously, as you can see here from like the text. Hello, comma, it just gets wrapped right there in the comma. And same thing with the compose. As you can see, it's a little longer, but we can tell just by the background more or less the sizing of it. But I guess they want us to sort of modify that. So let's take a look. Let's change our preview to emulate a common width of a small phone, 320 dp. Add width dp parameter to the preview annotation like so. So, yeah, 320 dp. I don't know if this is like cheating now that I know that this gear is a thing. But this is right. Gotcha. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, now that you mention it, it makes sense for different devices, like being able to see, right, what they look like simultaneously. That's great. So that's definitely good to know. And then once I add the width DP, okay. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. 320 is what they wanted. And the preview's updating now. Did it update? Oh yeah, it did. So, well, I don't know if we can tell, but I could tell because of this. So when I hover over it, there is this blue line all the way on the right now. That's the width of like the actual preview box that I'm seeing. But I'm sure there's a way to modify that background. I'm not there yet. Maybe here, background, right? Background color. Gotcha. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So that's good to know. I'll keep it like this for now, since, I mean, this is following the code lab, and for the most part, that makes sense. Cool. So let's take a look at this. So modifiers I use extensively, try to replicate the layout using fill max width and padding. So they want us to try to do this essentially, but with fill max width and padding. Sounds good. Okay. So for the most part, I'm wondering. So the first thing that comes to mind is I'm wondering if they want us to do this only for the preview, or if they want us to do this for the items themselves. And yeah, that's my first. This one. Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense. Because I see here that we have the preview all around, and then I think that's what they wanted, more or less. So what I'm seeing here is they want padding for each item outside and within. That's what I see here anyway. So there is some padding to the preview itself, and then there's padding to the items. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Well, for the most part, so what I want to do here is I'll go ahead and uh, the greeting, right? For example, down here, the modifier, I'll do the fill max width, right? And then whatever the padding is. So this is what, okay, so question. My app, right, that gets called here, it creates a column. Fill max width here for the, or fill max size. That's what we're seeing here. Like when we say 320 width and the preview, we are filling the max size for this my app composable. Is that what it's saying here? Like when we set the width for the preview itself here. Okay. So this is okay. Right. 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 Yeah, what it looks like more or less. Okay, okay, that makes sense. All right, well, let's start slinging some code, I guess. Let me see. So, the items themselves, for the greeting itself, we want to modify the column to have a max width and some padding. Is that, does that sound correct? Or, I mean, not the column maybe, but like the actual surface, right? So, like, that's the area that encompasses this column, right? Right. So I'll go ahead and just add a modifier here. And it'll be modifier dot fill max width. Did it say max width? Fill max width. So it'll do all that stuff. Now, if I wanted to add the padding, is it just oh yeah, so we could chain the call, right? Like we could just keep chaining stuff here. Like we could say padding and then I don't know, I guess 24.dp. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. That's interesting. Hmm. Oh, okay. Well, I don't see it here with this, but I can see what you mean, like in terms of if you do the background first and then you set the padding, it'll probably not show some of the background, right? Because it'll push it in. Okay. 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 That makes sense. Okay. And I'm just right. 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 Okay. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So we're almost there. I do see that there is. I think this column I think needs some padding because when I added the padding here, it kind of pushed it for the, or maybe not, but for the most part, it pushed our background in. So because this is a surface, kind of like you mentioned, Pedro. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if maybe adding a modifier here helps by saying modify the padding just I guess 10 dp or something like that, just to see what happens. see what changes, I guess. Okay, so it seems like that does some of the trick, which is I wanted to push the text in a little bit, kind of like here, within the within this preview, which is great. They use a little bit more than I'm using, but that's okay. I could use probably like 24. And then for the most part, the one thing that I'd be missing is the actual item. Like there's some padding between the two greetings, right? Which tells me that there's probably some padding outside of this child, I guess. And if I had to guess, it'd probably be here, somewhere here in this area. I might be wrong, but we could try it, see what happens. So let's try by doing modifier and then adding some padding here. And see what changes, I guess, for the most part. Okay, yeah, so I was right about that. Great. And yeah, it's not perfect, but I understood more or less what I had to do, the assignment. So, yes, that's what I was missing. So it's not perfect because we kind of set the padding all around, and then in the middle here, they're kind of getting conjuncted. So we wanted to play around with the vertical and horizontal padding. So that's basically what we're missing. And obviously the values are a little different, but for the most part, that's what made sense. They also did the actual modification a little bit different. Like for example, I set fill max width, I think, here in the surface. And they set that within the column, so here. And obviously the result is a little different, but for the most part, let me see what that looks like. So adding these vertical and horizontal modifiers instead of on the, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Similar to how you would do with constraint layout and stuff like that. Like those attributes. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. And it's good to know that, like, that'll, I'm pretty sure if you're familiar with constraint and you're able to type in similar words, you could probably figure out how to do it. But that makes sense, like, that you're able to modify it as such. I was kind of surprised that, I guess, I thought that the surface would want to be fill max width instead. And I was doing it here, but it makes sense because this seems a little bit higher level than just modifying the greeting composable. So I guess here what they did was, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and add some horizontal and vertical padding, and then within that we're gonna say each item go ahead and fill the max width, and then we're gonna push the items in, like we're gonna have some padding, right? So that's what we're seeing here with the text being pushed. Okay. Awesome. So that seems to be almost the end. So we're missing some buttons here. So let's go ahead and add that, and then I think we'll stop here because we're already reaching an hour, and like this is great information, but obviously some people might not have planned to stay longer than that. So for the most part, we can continue back station number 7 after, but let's go ahead and just add these buttons real quick. So in the next step, we're going to go ahead and have a clickable element within the greeting function. And yeah, we're just going to basically say like button. Oh, don't copy it. They don't want us to copy this. Okay. So they're just talking about it, it seems. They do want us to add a button, it seems, but not copy this specifically, I guess. So let's go ahead and add a button. That says show more. That's all we're going to do. Let's do that. That's going to go within the column here, but it seems like there's probably going to be a row, right? So this item is next to each other, next to like the text itself. So we'll go ahead and do option enter. Oh, gotcha. Okay, hold up. I can do this. Surround widget. Wait. This is actually great. Oh, wow. No, this is great. This is great. All right, cool. So we have that column there. And then we wanted to go ahead and add the button. So do we need a comma here? I don't think we did. Maybe we do. No? Okay. Doesn't seem like we do. And then the button's going to say show more. So I wonder if it's just within, yeah, it's just a text. So we're going to go ahead and do this text. Right. Right. No, I mean, yeah, I could see a lot of the, because you could fit whatever you want, like whatever elements you want within here. And that's what I'm seeing. Well, I'm not seeing it right now. I don't know where it went, but I'm sure I know what you mean. So let's. Ah. Ah. Look at that. Well, we could do that here, I guess, right? Maybe like modifier that fill max with. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. All right. So comma, oops. All right. Here. Huh. Gotcha. It's rendering right now, but I think I. Oh, okay, I see it. I'm not sure why it's still pushing this a little, but maybe it's one of our, like the actual items themselves. I don't know if you see that the sizing is a little different. It's vertical. Look at that. I'm a composed genius. I'm just kidding. Right. Yeah. I mean, the pattern that I'm seeing is like, for example, you mentioned horizontal arrangement. Okay, arrangement is the word, you know. Vertical alignment is the word. So I'm seeing there's a sort of pattern that they're trying to make it a lot more simple for us, obviously. But there's definitely like a little learning curve in terms of, you know, what is there to call? Like, what can we do? but that's good to know for sure. So this button, it doesn't really have, doesn't look like this, but I'm assuming that's because they're using here like an elevated button, I think, that I saw down here in the code. So maybe modifying this to elevated button will change how it looks a little bit, or not. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's a background modifier or something. Oh, okay, yeah. So there it is. So for the most part, that makes sense. And they don't want us to really play with the on-click, but yeah, it's definitely good to know. Anything else that you guys want to call out before I sort of wrap it up for here? I know. That's what I'm saying. But I am enjoying it. I am enjoying it. It's nice to be able to see like all the different things. This is literally, you know, the babies, how they're like on their belly, just trying to. Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. Step number 6 of pathway number 1, and we're already a little stuck, and that's okay. But yeah, for the most part. Mhm. Right. Oh, nice. I'll definitely, if you find it, let me know, but I'll look it up after. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, no, I could only imagine. Bar. Yeah, true. That's cool. Well, I definitely had some fun learning those few steps. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now. But yeah, in the meantime, like we can talk a little bit after this. One second.